speakers so far. I appreciate you guys helping us celebrate today. At this time, I'm honored to introduce a very special guest, Jamie Baird. If you could come on up. Jamie is the wife of one of our dedicated employees, Jason Baird, who is a nurse within our hospital here. Jamie is here to share her personal patient testimonial with us and provide a unique perspective on the care that she received while at this facility. We're grateful to have you with us today, Jamie. Thank you.
Pam didn't bother to tell me how many people will be standing here looking at me today, but we're going to make the best of it and go for it. So first of all, I'd like to say good afternoon. Thank you all for allowing me to be here. I'm honored and humbled to be standing before you to give this testimony. I'm Jamie Baird, and I am a COVID ECMO survivor. As a 45-year-old woman and lifetime resident of this community, this hospital has been my hospital my entire life. I had my first ever surgery here at 17. My precious children were born here in 2004, 2014, 2018, and 2021. However, my family never realized how important this hospital would be in saving my life until August through mid-October of 2021. As a world, country, state, and community, we were all trying to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic. We thought we were on the downhill side, or so we thought. I was working for a national retailer and had been deemed essential since the beginning, much like all of you. I had followed the strictest work protocols, wore my mask and gloves all the time, used enough hand sanitizer to kill every germ known to man. And I really thought, as for me and my family, we were almost through. We were finally going to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I'm a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, and when COVID found its way to these shores, I prayed every day that my family would be protected from COVID, and it wouldn't touch my children. I forgot to add myself to those prayers. And on August 26, 2021, I was set to be in the biggest battle of my life, which my family now refers to as our very own season of Job. I'd picked my children up from school, and my oldest daughter, Emily, asked me if I could smell the new air freshener she had hung in my car. I was bewildered. I could see it there, but there was no smell to be had. I didn't want to alarm our children, so I simply said, "Oh, I love it. It smells great." Upon arriving at home, I immediately sent my kids to the backyard. I went into my room, grabbed a candle, and shoved it into my face. Nothing, no smell whatsoever. And I knew I had COVID. I called my husband, who works in wound care here at Medical City, and I said, "You need to bring a COVID test home." When he got home, he helped me with the test, and it was positive with less than a minute. I was still trying to be optimistic, but I was 34 weeks pregnant, and thought that me getting a little winded was just because I was 42 and pregnant. I had another nurse, Kelly Souther, bring me an incentive spirometer and said, "Make sure you use this, take care of that baby." And I sent all my kids to stay with my mom and dad. But I didn't feel bad at all. I really didn't. That would drastically change. Being pregnant, all I could do was treat the symptoms, take my vitamins, and wait to see if things got worse. At least that's what the doctor said. Well, things got drastically worse. 4 days after testing positive, my husband Jason woke me up and said, "Let's walk to the mailbox and back to the house and back into the yard." He was trying to make sure my breathing was okay for me and our unborn baby. It was not. I was gasping for air and my head was pounding. He immediately said, "That's it, you're going to the hospital." I told him, "Fine, but whatever you do, don't put me on that ventilator." That previous November, I had stood in another hospital and watched my coworker not make it off the ventilator. I was adamant about not going on that machine. I was admitted to the hospital, placed on oxygen, and everyone was making sure that baby was okay. Dr. Kyle was my OBGYN, and little did I know, he was already making phone calls, calling every field specialist he could find to determine the best way to save me and my baby. On the third day in the hospital here, he arrived in my room and told me that we're delivering your baby today. I was 34 weeks along, and Dr. Kyle said all the specialists agreed that this was going to be the best way to save us. But I wasn't so sure. I couldn't breathe if I laid flat, and now they were going to have to lay me flat to perform this emergency C-section. It wouldn't be my first C-section. I'd had 3 more before this, but this one was different. I had all kinds of questions. How was I going to breathe? Would our baby be okay? Is this really going to help? I immediately called my husband and told him the plan, and during the afternoon of September the 1st, I was wheeled into the operating room surrounded by more medical professionals than I had ever seen in my previous 3 C-sections. I was scared because of my inability to breathe, but there was a nurse holding my hand, dressed in all that COVID garb, with her face shield on, putting her hands on my shoulders, looking me straight in my eyes and kept saying to me, "You're doing fine. Keep breathing. You've got this." Strangely enough, I will always believe God used her to relieve my fears and allow me to relax as best as I could in the given circumstances. They gave me the medicine, laid me down, placed a pillow under my shoulders, and taped me to the table. They literally taped me. At 3:30 in the afternoon on September the 1st, our son, Camden Brady, was successfully brought into this world. They immediately placed my newborn son next to my face, and I remember thinking, are they crazy? I have COVID. Why are they putting that baby next to my face? My husband later told me that in case I didn't make it, they wanted him to be able to touch me one time. For 3 days after that, my O2 levels showed signs of improvement. Then they didn't. I went from nasal cannula to high flow to BiPAP and everything in between. I was hypoxic, I wouldn't keep a mask on, I was combative to the nurses, and my numbers were getting worse. Nurses, social workers, and everyone involved in my care here were working their hardest to keep me going. Then God sent Kirsty Carruthers, my cousin, and a nurse that happened to be working that day to my bedside. My respirations at that point were in the 60s, and my O2 was in the 40s with oxygen on. I was still refusing that machine. Kirsty came into my room and said, "Let's have a talk." She said, "What are you doing? You're relatively healthy before this, and you have 5 kids waiting on you at home." I said, "I know, but I'm not going on that machine. You don't understand. I watched my daughter pass away, and I'm not going on that machine." She said, "But you need to. Your body can't keep doing this, and it's going to give out. You're panting for every breath you're getting. It's just going to give out." Then she began to tell me about an available treatment called ECMO, but that I couldn't be considered for it if I wasn't on the ventilator. I said, "Yeah, well, that's too bad because I'm not going on that machine." And she then told me, "But you just had a baby. It puts you top priority." And we're already calling. We've called everywhere. We've called Galveston, we've called New Mexico, we've called Plano. I said, "Kirsty, are you sure?" She looks me in the eyes and she says, "I'm not sure of anything at this moment except for the fact that I'm not going to watch you die. And I know I can get you to that ECMO treatment if you'll get on that ventilator." Again, my God was intervening through the people he placed in my path. And I said, "Well, I guess we have to do whatever we have to do." I was immediately placed on the ventilator, and 2 days later, I was airlifted to Medical City, Plano. My very first helicopter ride, and one that I will never, ever remember. Hundreds showed up in the hospital parking lot to pray for me, and there were multitudes more praying through social media all over the world for me to survive and come home to my family. I spent 6 additional days on the ventilator and an additional 18 days on ECMO at Medical City, Plano, being taken care of by the best group I could have ever asked for. The ECMO unit at that time had 9 beds and 10 machines, and it was a constant battleground to not let COVID take anyone. I'm not blind to the fact that I should not medically be standing here today. I was almost revented, I was almost trached, but I had a will to survive and a great set of nurses who were my ultimate patient advocates. And on September the 23rd, 2021, my body could finally maintain the proper arterial blood gas, and the ECMO tubes were removed from my legs. The nurses at Medical City, Plano had arranged for me to be wheeled outside on that sunny fall day to see my older children, who I had not seen since August the 26th, and my newborn son, who I had not seen since the day he was born. Then I spent another few days at Medical City, Plano, before being transferred home to here, Medical City, to the inpatient rehab. I vividly remember that ambulance ride from Plano to here, and as we got closer to home, my pulse ox continually improved. It was as if my body started knowing it was going to be okay. Upon arriving at the inpatient rehab here, I was treated with the utmost respect and care. Dee Green, the inpatient rehab director, came to my room to greet me and check on me. As it was too late to get food, she took it upon herself to go give me a burger. And I can tell you that was probably one of the best burgers I have ever had, as I've been on pureed food for most of the last month. For the next 14 days, I worked with some of the best occupational, physical, and speech therapists ever, and Lindsay, Emily, Shelley, Angie, and others. Then there was Sweet Maria, the patient tech there, who took care of my every need without hesitation, and to this day will hug me anytime she sees me outside these hospital walls. That group pushed me to keep going, celebrated the victories with me, walked me through the tough days, and allowed me the opportunity to gain strength and regain abilities I thought were gone forever. Inpatient rehab will forever hold a place in my heart for the work they did for me and that they keep doing daily. They even surprised me on my discharge day with a victory walk out of rehab. The entire staff and most of the hospital were in on it. Dee told me there was tradition for rehab patients to walk out their final trip through the doors. I later learned that wasn't true. When the doors opened, both sides of the hallway were lined with people from all areas of the hospital and with people that had been a part of this COVID battle with me. It was a sight to behold. They all cheered and clapped for me as I made my way out of the hospital where 48 days earlier, my battle had began. COVID was a time that few saw the other side, including my mama. She passed away in this very hospital on September the 16th, 2021. I will never forget, though, what many hospital personnel said to me the day I was discharged. Your victory was a victory for us all, and one that we needed to remind us to keep fighting. In closing, I want to leave you with these thoughts. No matter what name has been on this building over the last 50 years, whether it's Decatur Community Hospital, Wise Regional Health System, Wise Health System, or Medical City Decatur, it has always been the level of care and compassion provided to patients by the nurses, doctors, and all healthcare professionals involved in a patient's care that have made the difference in the lives of patients like myself who entered these doors battling for their lives and can now stand before you and say, I made it. I hope the next 50 years brings even greater patient testimonies for Medical City Decatur and the communities that they serve. And I thank you for allowing me to share my small part in the history of this hospital.
Thank you, Jamie. You know, Jamie's story and the thousands and thousands like hers are the reason why those guys in 1967 had the vision they did and did what they did, and it's the reason why so many of us continue to show up every